Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And today we are a living example of what we are talking about today. So, the topic for today is if you resist the blessing, you resist the lesson, you resist the blessing. Because the lesson is the blessing, so to speak. Now, what am I talking about? So, today I got a week's worth of videos done and I was feeling pretty tired. And I didn't want to film this video today. But I realized as I was doing my research and thinking about what I needed to send, when you want to change what's going on in your life, when you want to really establish a new type of habit, you have to choose principles over patterns. So, in order to choose principles over patterns, first there's a couple of things, right? Because this is how you facilitate change, right? Take the principle over the pattern. So, first, you notice whatever the pattern is, like, oh, I never write because, XYZ. When I come home from work, I'm too tired. Or whenever my wife says this, I get angry and I lose a fight and then I end up sleeping on the couch or whatever. You figure out whatever the pattern is, right? Whatever pattern you're trying to overcome, the habit, the consistent mirror, whatever the universe is showing you. And then in order to do that, you then have to say, what is the principle? What is the lesson I'm missing, right? So for me today, I was feeling pretty pooped. I spent all day, and today was supposed to be a day where I was fasting, kind of I call it self-denial, which actually isn't a really great thing. Sometimes we can think self-denial is discipline, but it's not. And I noticed that I had this tendency, like when I start getting on a roll, I have a tendency to crank up the heat or to dial it back. But one of the things I'm learning to do is how to just stay rooted and grounded in what it is I'm already doing and not necessarily advance, but not necessarily retreat either, but just doing my best to be still. That's something that I personally struggle with. And so oftentimes, when I'm calibrating, okay, do I do too much? Do I do too little or whatever? I saw while I was in the beach, right? There was these waves that was coming, and I wanted to get my feet in the water, but I didn't necessarily, want to get out and jump into the waves or whatever. But I noticed, just like life, the water was coming, and it was this tide, it was this ebb and this flow coming back towards me and coming back. And what was interesting is when the waves would get closer to me on the bank, you could see it building up in the distance, and that's when I knew, okay, if I take a step forward here, the water won't be with me now. I'll have my feet dry, but if I just stand here, the water will then eventually come sweep me away. This is what it's like when you are learning to overcome your habits, because you're not just going to do this with sheer willpower. You have to let life kind of come in waves to carry you away. But in order to do that, you just have to stand in the right spot so that life can come get you. So sometimes you don't need to go all the way out to the bank shore. You don't need to go all the way out to the river. You just need to stand close enough so that you're dry now, but if you stand there, even as the water's coming, you let it take you away. And so for me, the principle for me personally was filming a video every day during the work week and only taking one day off, right? Because that was the principle that I decided for myself, that I was like, I'm going to make 6 videos a week, which, for the next month or so to get myself ahead. And then after that, start working on optimizing. But that was the principle that I'd set out for the next couple of weeks. And so when the pattern of, oh man, I'm tired, I got the first one done, celebrating my success, I realized I talked with a coach of mine actually, and he was just saying, listen, you're being self-indulgent, just kind of taking a step back, and it was a lot of excuses. So ultimately, I had to just step up, and here I am filming the video, doing it, and this is going to be uploaded, and who knows how many views. It's not really about the validation or people knowing it, but it's recognizing that in order to beat your patterns, you just have to stay on the principle. And the principle doesn't have to be a big one. It doesn't have to be this huge Herculean effort. Sometimes all it means is just stay rooted and standing and that place by the shore, and let the river, not the river, let the sea, the ocean catch up to you through the ebb and the flow of life, through the rhythm of life. It'll come get you. And so when you resist, that's, moving against the waves, right? And trying not to get wet, even though you're going to the water. And what happens is when we resist the lesson with whatever the pattern is doing, i.e., we just go back to the old default because we try so hard that we overcompensate. Both are forms of resistance when you do too little or you do too much. Because a lot of this is being grounded in just ultimately what is the principle. And so for me, oftentimes when, for instance, if I meet a girl and I think she's cute, there was a time when I would hold back and become performative, pretending to be less interested, because, I thought, okay, I'll be too much, and I'll push her away. And there were sometimes that was absolutely the case. But then I started realizing that the principle was what I want wants me. And so if I want to message someone or I want to talk with them, I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to do what I want, and then trust that if this thing is truly in line with my desires, it's going to want me back, right? And since then, I've seen positive results so far. And so this is the biggest hurdle that we're going to find again and again, is just this idea of not resisting one way or the other, either by being afraid and running away from what we know we need to do, or trying to overcompensate and run towards something because we don't feel like we're good enough. Both are a sense of fear. Whereas sometimes we just need to commit to whatever principle we've said and then just stay rooted on that principle. And then anytime that principle is challenged, come up. So for instance, if you smoke and you're like, I want to quit smoking or whatever, and you decide that every time I feel like, I want to smoke, I'll get like a nicotine gum or whatever habit you decide. But the ultimate principle is that you don't need cigarettes to live a good life. That could be a principle, whatever the mantra you come up with is. And then when you do that, cigarettes, you don't need them to live a good life. But then what's cool about that, though, is that whether the water ebbs and flows, so let's say you do smoke cigarettes, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make your life better. But by not having them, your life's not going to get worse either. So when you start realizing that in this principle that cigarettes are kind of a non-factor, then naturally it's easier to just sort of step away because you start living a better life, right? And so it's always super important just to identify what is the principle I am seeking to resist, what is the lesson I need to learn. And for today, sometimes your best is going to look different every single day, but as long as you show up, that's what matters, that's what counts. So here I am showing up for you guys. Anyway, hope that video was helpful. I'm definitely in a mode today, but remember, principles over patterns. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're an entrepreneur looking to build your business or just want to write, sell more books, get in contact with me, as well as if you want to join our Skool group where we have the Hero Writers course out and available now, so you can learn how to combine life mechanics into writing your narrative for a better story. Join our Skool group down below. Anyway, stay happy, stay healthy. Peace.